Hi, I'm Ken Garriman. I'm the Vice Chair of the Board of Finance, and in the absence of our Chairman, Matt Hoey, who I believe will be arriving sometime soon, I'm pleased to call the meeting of November 21st, 2016 to order, and we will start with any public forum questions. Is there anyone wishing to address public forum? Not hearing any, we'll move directly to review and approval of the minutes. We each have copies of them. Any comments, amendments, changes, errors, or other adjustments?
I just had a couple of
Ken?
quick questions. On page 2, in response to a question you had asked on the dedicated road fund, Ms. Savitsky said the amount is $615,000, but it's subject to audit. Is that the balance in the account?
Yes.
Is that what that is?
I think that's what it was, yes. I believe it was 600 million. Any other comments?
I'll move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved with that one adjustment. Item 3, correspondence. I have a lot to say on this one. The Standing Building Committee minutes, I'd like to refer first to the Baldwin Window Project, because that raised a lot of questions at the last meeting. And I want to thank Linda for sending us the transcript of Mr. Gurnham's review of that project. And I'd like to open a brief discussion on that. I don't want to monopolize this. Anyone have any comments on the Baldwin Window Project? Well, I have one. My problem with this is that it, especially in reviewing Mr. Burnham's comments, which his pointed summary, which extended from 2013 through 2016, and I'm just wondering why it took so long for them to move to action on something that cost the town over $500,000 additional to what was the original estimate in the bonding. And at first, they tested just for asbestos, then they went to the PCBs and contacted Mystic Air regarding that, and then there were further discussions, and we had to go all the way down to October and November before there was any action on this. And I see from the Standing Building Committee's minutes that of November 1 that they were looking for an update as of November 22nd, which is tomorrow. And I'm just concerned really about the process. I didn't know anyone had any other.
We're at a little bit of a loss here without Michael being here, who's usually our liaison to these matters, and at the risk of misremembering a bit, I mean, there has been some discussion about the PCBs in particular and how you just literally don't know until you start tearing that caulking out what's going to find, and it seems to me that's like the biggest variable in this process. So, subject to some further input, either directly from Standing Building or from Mike, our liaison, I would sort of suggest it makes some sense for us to push over it a little bit and, keep these questions alive, but get some more input.
Yeah, I think it already went out to bid.
Mr.
Went out-
Sands was at somebody's.
Yeah.
Love to hear your comments on it. My only fear is that there was extensive delay.
Right. The problem was that they first, the contractors first looked for asbestos, and that didn't turn out to be the problem that they feared. But in doing that, they found the PCBs. And the caulking, you're right, that's where this is. And the caulking had leached into some of the bricks. And we had some experience at another school where we went to replace the windows, and we discovered that the contamination from this hazardous material was much more extensive than we expected. So the Standing Building Committee recommended, or didn't really recommend, they sort of demanded, that the contractor, after a lot of discussion, the engineers picked a window, an actual big window. And that window was taken out, and all of the material around the window was examined and sent out to the laboratories to try and get a better feel for how much contamination we had. Because these are big windows. This is not like little stuff. These are really large windows. And they're very expensive, but if we have to take out 2 or 3 feet of the brickwork underneath the window and all the support stuff, then it's going to take a lot longer to replace that window than if you can just take the frame and take the old window out and put the new window in. And it turns out that that is, in fact, what we're going to have to do. And because we'd had a bad experience with these hazardous materials at this previous thing, it was decided to take an extra year to make sure that we were comfortable with these estimates and these calculations. And that's why it has taken so long. And the current thinking is that maybe we can get this done in 1 summer, but it is likely that this will take 2 summers, because there's a lot of remediation to be done, and you have to get that done before you can do the windows. And so it may be that what we end up doing is doing half of the school 1 summer and half of the school the next summer. It's just not, we'll see when we get the bids, but the contractor would have to have a lot of capability to be able to do this in the relatively short summer construction window.
Do we still feel that it will be $500,000 to $600,000 more than the original estimate?
Yes, but I think that the Standing Building Committee is a lot more comfortable that it's $500,000 to $600,000 and not $1 million. Before we were just guessing, and I think now that they have, they sampled several windows, but when they pulled this one window, then they really got to it.
Excuse me, this is from the architect on the cost for the project. The removal of the PCBs alone is over $400,000. So then
That's
do you want
including
that?
removal of the brickwork and...
Yeah, that includes that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's for abatement of the PCBs, it's over $400,000.
And do I understand that the PCB remediation, if you will, that sort of like asbestos, as long as it's not disturbed, it doesn't present any risk to anyone?
That's
So
correct.
the point is, you got to do this in the summer. Once you start tearing open a wall,
You can't have the kids around
gotta
while
take
this
care
is
of
over.
that.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
the need maybe for staging it over
Yes,
2 years?
yes, yes.
But the fact that it's there in an undisturbed wall is not a hazard of any sort?
No.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other, I know we were a bit late in getting this draft of the November 1st Standing Building Committee minutes. Are there any other items in that report that people would like to comment on?
No, really just to your comment. It was,
Well,
not that we
item-
have any
item
input
3.
anyway, but it's
There,
pretty much moved on,
yeah.
so.
Well, I'm sure any other things that we would mention in here, Mike Ailes would be helpful on. I was thinking particularly of performance contracting and these three bidders that are coming in and ESCO. I don't know what estimates we have on, at present, which one of the contractors is going to be selected.
Looks like it's still in process, right?
It's still in
Selected.
process.
The interviews are the 29th of this month, and we'll select the standing building committee will recommend somebody after that.
So there are still these three ESCOs in play.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments regarding the minutes of the Standing Building Committee? Next, item 3.2, Pension Committee minutes.
I appreciated the graphs showing the transition from the defined benefit plan to defined contribution plan and the relative closing of that gap. Looks like the process has started. Thank you for that information.
I just had a quick clarification question, 3.1. She reflected that the funds are down 56.5K from 56.7K. Is that down to 56.5K from 56.7 or down by 56.5K? I didn't really understand what that line was intended to convey.
I'm not sure, sorry.
Well, the fund has to be worth a lot more than 56,000.
Well, again, I have no idea what that's trying to convey.
It was confusing to me, too.
Yeah.
Millions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because that's.
Yeah, that makes
It's
more sense.
56 million.
We're in trouble.
Are down, they're not down 56.5 million, though. I would guess,
No,
if
they're
that's the
down-
case, then they're down to
They seem to be
56.5
down
million.
200,000.
So down 200,000 is the way you would interpret
Assuming
that?
that's supposed to be an M instead of a K, it would be down to 200,000 now.
Again,
That makes
I-
more sense.
I think the
Didn't know
K
what
is
that was
wrong.
supposed to.
K should be an M, I believe.
Good question, because I didn't understand why.
There is approximately 56 million in the fund, so that would be,
So okay, so that'd be down 200,000.
I don't know the exact number, but it is somewhere in the 56 million.
So percentage-wise, it's
Thank you.
down, what, 2%? Is that what it is? Percentage, what, the overall fund is down 2%? Is that what it comes out to?
No.
No.
No,
not even
Oh,
close.
200,000.
200,000. If we're talking millions of dollars,
So,
it's down 200,000.
Well, if it's 2 million, what is the pension fund?
56 million.
Okay.
A million would be 2%.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's less than,
40 basis points.
okay.
I actually have a question. Are the funds for the defined contribution plan kept in the same investment pool? Or are they segregated completely?
Yeah.
Okay. So this report, Ken's question about this report, that's the defined benefit plan funds. And at some point, we're going to see a report for defined contribution dollars that are starting to accumulate presumably.
I apologize, but I haven't gotten to the pension fund much.
There's an outside company that has the funds for the defined contribution plan. It's not part of the same funding like the town, the other pension plan,
Okay.
the defined benefit plan.
Okay. So my point is, we haven't seen those numbers yet, apparently.
Right.
Okay. But they're there and they're available and we will get a report at some point. Okay.
Any other comments on the pension committee minutes? Having none others, we'll proceed now to review the report of expenditures from the Board of Education for the month of October. Linda and Ted? Ted Sands and Linda Trudeau.
Well, we had a good month for October 2016. Expenditures for the Board of Ed were $4,933,814.36. The warrants were $2,375,708.11. I think of particular interest was that expenditures and encumbrances through the end of October of 2016 were 27.66% of the budget. At this point last year, we had expended and encumbered 28.14%. So all other things being equal, this is slightly beneficial. Some are up, some are down. A lot of these are the changes that you see are due to the timing of some of the payments, for example, to the insurance companies or things like that. But on the whole, we're sticking pretty close to budget. I was pleased to see that, for example, our special ed tuition was actually a smaller percentage of the budget than we had at this time last year. I'll come back to that issue later. The other big change was in the site improvements, where we're at 43% of the budget, and last year we were at 79% at this point. Last year we had a series of projects that were front-loaded. We were trying to get things done before school started and before the bad weather came in. This year the projects are spread out over the year more equally, so that's not a problem. If you look at the warrants, there's really, not a whole lot in here. There's a couple of references to technology leases, and what that is these are purchases of things like iPads and Chromebooks, which are financed through the technology lease, but they're showing in the warrant, they're showing it as coming from Apple or coming from Amazon. So that's what's going on there. I would be happy to answer any questions. Linda and I will try at least to answer any questions you might have with respect to the warrants, if there was anything that caught your eye there.
I have one on the spreadsheet on capital equipment instructional. Found it a little surprising that to date, this far along in the school year, you had expended and encumbered 61%, and last year it was 82%. And I was just wondering why we were slow in spending on instructional
I'm not sure that
equipment.
it's slow in spending. That line tends to be kind of chunky. These are not the same as buying Chromebooks. These tend to be bigger purchases. And so if we this is like what, smart boards and things like that. Yeah. So I mean, if we go buy 5 or 6 of these, maybe it's $25,000-$30,000. And whereas when we buy these other things, we just buy them at, a couple thousand each.
Well, what prompts the question is this presumably is material that the students need throughout the year. And when you see that gap, you wonder.
Well, but a lot of the instructional equipment is replacement stuff.
Okay.
And, we replace this on a regular schedule, and I think that or if something breaks, we have to go out and replace it. And my guess would be that we just, that we're not there yet. Yes.
On the thank you. On the capital line item, that's one of the areas that's at a lower rate of expenditure than last year. Is that sort of the same thing, or we just have things in the works, or is there something that's been deferred? Is there a single explanation, or are there many small explanations?
The site improvement line, we are holding off and doing projects until the summer.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, we had done a lot of them at the
In the
start
fall,
in the
yeah.
fall, the start of the year, to try and finish off projects and get a lot done.
Okay,
So we're just delaying some of the projects.
so that's likely to catch up.
Oh, yeah, in the spring,
Yes.
we'll get that done, but, this time of year, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do the outside.
Up to last week, it could have worked, but
Well, yeah.
no more laying concrete now.
But you don't, yeah, you really don't want to, the way it is, you have to schedule these contractors in advance, and who knew that it was going to be so warm? I mean,
Sure, I just wanted to get a sense of whether there were any particular projects that were being held off, and it sounds like
No.
that's not the case. It's just a function of scheduling with the contractors and the weather to make things right.
You have there's over $8,000 for Rehabilitation Association, and there's different schools that are receiving physical therapy. Who's the recipient of the physical therapy?
It's various students. It's not just one student, it's various students throughout the district.
So that falls under the Board of Ed?
Yes.
Responsibility?
Yes.
And
It's
what was?
probably part of the special ed programs.
Oh, I see.
Well,
But
it'd
it's
be
not-
that, and it also would be relating to some of the sports programs, people who've been injured. Because we contract that out. We don't have these people on staff because we don't know who's going to get injured and when and that kind of thing.
The 11,500 for the pre-K tuition revenue, is that, I think we may have spoken about that at the last meeting. That's for students who are coming in for the program, is it primarily at Lakes, or is that throughout the district?
Just at Lakes.
Okay.
Yeah, just the pre-K program at Lakes. And these are the typical peer students that
You have,
join that program.
Okay.
on page 6, you have itemized 4 invoices that total about $19,000 to Curtin Motor Livery Services. Is that special ed?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it's all special ed transportation. Just for September.
Just for the month of September?
Yes.
It seemed to be a new vendor. Have we seen this before or not?
Well,
No, we've used Curtin
Used them,
before.
Yeah.
They're a long-established
Yes.
Good.
vendor in that area.
yeah.
Are there any other issues regarding the spreadsheets or the warrants?
I just have one question. The condenser at Jones, was that part of the HVAC program, or is that something?
What page are?
I'm sorry, I'm at page 2.
Yes, that was a repair replacement that we had to do before the start of the school year.
I see.
And, we went in and we looked at it and we just decided it wasn't going to make it through the winter.
And the GHS sweeper, is that for the buildings or for the fields?
That's for the buildings.
Buildings.
Buildings, okay.
Are there
Those
any other comments on warrants or the spreadsheets? Otherwise, anyone have any comments or questions on the committee minutes that we've gotten from the Operations Committee or the full Board of Ed? We have I think about a combination of 3 minutes here.
I did have one question in the minutes. This is
Which one?
From the Operations Committee, third item. It says that HVAC jobs are outsourced right now. However, that job has been posted. And my question is there a position in the budget for that now?
Yes.
So that's already been budgeted and accounted for? There's an open position?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's that
It's an open
we
position.
have traditionally had that person on staff. And there was a termination, and we have not filled the position since then. So we've had to outsource it.
Have you gotten much response for the ad that was placed?
We haven't hired anybody yet. We're still looking. I guess we're a little more sensitive after
We have.
the last episode.
We do have some candidates that we are interviewing tomorrow for the position. We had done 3 or 4 other interviews prior to the ones we're doing tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? There is one point that I think we should advise the Board of Finance on. I think that one of the issues that the Operations Committee is most nervous about with respect to the budget relates to state reimbursement of special ed costs. As you've probably seen, the administration in Hartford is looking everywhere they can to save money, and I was recently at a convention for the Connecticut Boards of Education, and both the governor and the Secretary of Education for the state spoke to us. And the message was real clear that the state is cutting back on reimbursements across the board to municipalities. And where this is going to hit Guilford is that in the special ed area, what we have to do is mandated by the state. And in some cases where the children's needs are quite serious, we have costs that exceed $300,000 a year per pupil. Well, there's an agreement in the law that says that expenditures for special education students above 3.5 times our normal cost, which in our case I believe is what, about 16,000. Yeah, but it's about 69,000, 70,000.
No, 75,000.
75,000 is the cutoff.
4.5 times the
Yeah,
per pupil rate.
4.5, okay. So what that means is that we pay the first 75,000 per special ed student on the Guilford budget. And then the law says that the state picks up everything above that. But over the last several years, the state has been crying poor. And from 100%, 90%, 80%, last year we were in the 70s. The talk at the convention is that we might be in the 50 to 60% reimbursement level this year. This is real money to us. This, I mean, we budgeted what percentage?
70.
We
Yes,
budgeted
70.
70, which we thought was very conservative. And it would appear that we're not going to, there's a good chance we won't get that 70. And so this may be a real problem for the budget in the second half of the year. And we're just going to have to see. We won't know until what, February?
End of February is the first meeting.
End of February when they turn that card over. But all the indications that I'm getting are really negative on this point.
What's the incremental difference per 10%?
Roughly 400,000.
That would be if it dropped from 70 to 50 or 70 to 60?
No, use 10%. That was-
That's 10%?
10%.
400 is 10%?
400,000.
I mean, I may be a little high.
I don't think so.
It's
I
going to be
think,
in that area.
yeah, I think it'd be that area. I mean, this is going to be, I mean, this is going to be a real problem if it happens.
It may be a real problem. I mean, like, you know, we really.
Well, we don't know, but I mean, I think it's important that we advise the Board of Finance.
And that's a fully loaded per special ed student. That's not just tuition. That includes transportation costs.
Yes.
It's all
Yeah.
fully-
Everything.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that quip about turning the card over in February?
Oh, we get paid in 2 installments. The first installment is at the end of February, and that's when they tell us what the percent for the year is going to be. Now, it says in the law that the percent's 100, but in fact, we haven't for years been getting anywhere close to 100. And in February, they'll say, well, the percentage this year is X, and by the way, here's your check for the first half of the year. So that's when we'll know.
Does Guilford get treated differently than Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, or is it just across the board, this is what it is?
Well,
regardless?
there's a whole different system for Bridgeport, New Haven.
Cities are
Not
city-
special ed. The special ed system is the same. The educational cost sharing is very, very different.
Very,
Right.
very different.
But this formula is the same. And this is the ECS money, the educational cost sharing money actually goes to the town. This actually is in our budget, the Board of Education's budget. So, we make our best estimate. And the state, to be fair to the state for a second, I hate to be fair, but I'm going to be a little bit fair. They've actually held up their reimbursements pretty consistently over the last several years. It is, they've tried to keep it, I think it actually was 5 times the rate of the average student when I came on the board. And now it's down to 4.5 times, which is a marginal improvement for us. It's not fully appropriated the funds to allow a complete reimbursement. Have never been fully appropriated, but they've always been in a pretty narrow band. So we'll see. I don't think there's great reason to be optimistic that it's going to be either higher or at the level that we were expecting, but we're just going to have to see.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I think I can say clearly is that both the governor's office and the General Assembly are very, very, very aware of what the impact would be on municipal budgets from this, because we set our budget 9 months ago, and we made conservative assessments, conservative calculations. We never underestimate this because we always know there's going to be tension in this area, but the government is quite clear about the importance of this issue to municipal budgets. So,
It's my understanding, though, that Connecticut currently is going to have record level deficits at the end of this year. So if that's the case, what's our backup plan in the event that we don't get anything from the state?
well, we're going to have to see. I think it would depend on what the amount of the issue is. I think one of the questions that was asked is would you one of the reasons I think we are not looking at site improvements right now, for example, is we might want to hold off on that to see what happens. It's a little bit of a cushion. We are running a surplus in the health insurance line.
So far.
Well, we're in quite good shape on the health insurance line. We have managed to turn that completely around in the last 3 or 4 years. So we'll be okay.
Does this include the in-house, or is this just the 30 kids or the 27 kids that are in the outplacement program?
It would be everybody except the only people that are really above 4.5 times the average per student cost
It's the
are
outplaced
outplacements.
students.
Those are all
So-
outplacement. Yeah.
When I look at it, I know it's basically $3 million is the gross number that we spend in that program. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm off by a lot,
Might
but
be
I think it's $3 million.
close. I mean, there's plus transportation, there are going to be some other ancillary
And
services.
if you're looking at $75,000 per student is what we pick up initially.
Right.
Times 30 is 225, okay?
If we
Which
have-
leaves us with roughly 750, okay? That if we got 100% reimbursement on, which we haven't for years, we'd get that 750 back. So where I'm going with this is 10% of the 750 is only 75,000.
No, it's more.
So that's why I'm having trouble getting to the
The
800,000.
number is bigger. The number is bigger.
But I don't see how it could be that large, given.
You're looking at the tuition line. There are other services.
Well, even if you add in the buses is only.
No, but
for those-
there's other stuff.
There's occupational.
There's therapy, there are consultants, there's
But
psychiatrists.
that doesn't go under the excess cost grant. If, based on the outplaced students that we had at the end of October, and I'm going to preface this by saying this is just through the end of October,
Yeah,
if we got full excess cost reimbursement, it would be about $1.8 million we should be receiving. We're not going to receive $1.8 million. $1.8 million would be the
reimbursement
full
would be $1.8 million.
reimbursement on the outplaced students at the end of October. It would be about $1.8 million.
And is that, when you say full reimbursement, that's over the 75,000 cap?
Yes.
Okay.
So then we budgeted at 70% of that.
Right.
Okay, and so when you do the math, Mr.
Yeah.
McKenzie, you've got your pen out. So if we figure, so it's
So
a-
10%
it's
of
a
that is a little under 200,000.
180, yeah.
Yeah.
So your 10% tranche
So
would be 100.
360 would
Yeah.
be 20%.
So,
Had another question. We're through with this, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Typically, when we have these any over expenditures in the tuition, special ed lines, the first place that we look is our salary lines, because there's usually some savings between what we budgeted and any retirees and the new hires that come in at lower salaries. This year, we used those savings as part of the budget reductions, so we don't have that built-in cushion that we normally would have to cover these costs. So part of the thing that we want to bring to your attention is that we could be facing this potential problem of not receiving state funding, rising special ed costs, and not having a cushion to offset them. Last year, we were able to cover over $1 million in within our own budget of over expenditures between special ed and a few other lines. This year, we don't have that kind of a buffer that we'd be able to cover any large over expenditures.
And there's another variable of some students leaving or coming during the middle of the year. I mean, that doesn't happen often, but it happens,
more
right?
often than you would think,
Well,
actually.
that's why I prefaced this by saying as at the end of October, because in November, we had a student family move into town with an outplaced student. We also have a student that had some changing needs and is going to require a different outplacement. And right now, this is looking like a very costly outplacement to the tune of almost $500,000 for one outplacement. That is not figured into anything that I was looking at the end of October. So that completely changes everything that I had figured on only a few weeks ago.
With the understanding that we are obligated, regardless
Oh,
of
yeah.
the needs, to deliver the services
They're
for the
coming in, but
student.
nobody's
I mean,
going out.
nobody's arguing that, but I think it
No,
bears
we did bring
repeating.
one student back. We did have one come back. As of the beginning of November, there was a student that was outplaced that came back. But, so it does change, and we do try and get him back. But right now, where we stand is,
Any other questions on this particular issue? Well, I have a question about grants. I noticed in on the Board of Ed's minutes of September 12th that there were total grants submitted of about $200,000, or, excuse me, $300,000. Total grant applications. Is that about as much as we can apply for? Is there any other area that we can get anything? This is federal,
Title I.
Title I. So that's the extent of support we can hope to get.
right. Title I grants are based off of the number of our free and reduced students. So we get our funding based on that number of students. We don't have a high amount of free and reduced students, so our grant amount is limited for Title I.
And one thing I found curious to go to your other minutes on the Operations Committee, October 26th, it seemed that there were, not that they're not important, but it seemed that the public raised questions just about two things. And this was public input,
Yes.
budget hearing.
Oh, no.
Well, the only thing that was carried in the minutes was
It was all about the pool.
all about swimming, the swimming team and the cheer team. I didn't see any other requests in there.
Oh, no.
Five.
Where,
Yeah.
really? Where
Oh,
are they?
yeah.
Math coaches was one. What were the other two?
Okay, there you go.
Delayed start times was talked
Yeah.
about again.
Yeah.
Forget what the fifth one was.
There was a mention of, for special ed.
Yeah.
Something about
special ed.
Special ed, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And there was
There might have been
another-
another one. There might have been six.
Yeah.
And it's not a pool, by the way, it's a swim team. Let's just Take it easy before that gets turned into. No, we're not. And they're not done that.
Any other questions on the Board of Ed?
Mr. Gamerman, I just wanted to report that we did at the last meeting approve two new contracts with two of our unions, two of our bargaining units. And I just wanted to update this board on that because I think they were reasonable contracts, but they also, we have been able to now move virtually everybody who works in the district out of the traditional health insurance plan that we have been in. Now we have 6 different bargaining units, or 7 different bargaining units, I'm sorry. Now 6 of them are in a high deductible health plan with a health savings account. We think that's going to be a real benefit. The 7th one is not in a traditional plan either. The 7th is the cafeteria workers. They're in a union-controlled health plan, so we are not responsible for them in any way. In terms of the administration of that plan. So we're very positive about this. I will tell you the administrators, we have agreed to a 3-year contract. They do not have any steps within their contract, so they are set at a finite salary number, regardless of years of experience, but it's based on the position that they're in, whether a principal, assistant principal, dean, whatever. They are going to receive a salary increase of 2.25% in each of the 3 years. But they are going to move into this high deductible health plan in year 1. And then that'll be continuing obviously through 2 and 3. We're very, very encouraged by the fact that they agreed to go into this health plan. The teachers, we also just resolved our agreement with the teachers. Same thing on the health plan. They are also going to go completely into the high deductible health plan with the health savings account. If anybody, there is going to be one option offered to the teachers as an alternative, but if the teachers want to go into that option, it's 100% that they pay the difference between the high deductible health plan and the cost of that program. So there would be no subsidy by the Board of Education of any alternative plan, which we think is a real positive. In terms of salary, and there's some language issues and so forth that I'm sure that I think have some meaning, and we think they're important, but in terms of salary, as you know, about 1/3 of our teachers are at top step. There are 14 steps. About 1/3 are at top step. For the teachers at top step in the first year, that's 2017-18, they will get a 1% salary increase. For top step teachers in the second year, there would be a 2% salary increase, and top step teachers in the third year would get because the steps are going to be modified, they would be getting a 3.4% increase. So a teacher at top step is 6.4%. For other teachers, over 3 years. Other teachers who are in the step system would have step movement each year. And so they would get no cost of living increase on top of the steps. It's purely a step movement for anybody less than maximum. So with the assumption that our teaching faculty does not change from year to year, which is of course not an accurate assumption, but there's no way we can quantify it from a year-to-year basis. So the numbers I'm going to give you are at the high end. They assume no retirements. But if there are no retirements within any year in the first year, and this is not including any savings from the health insurance changes, it would be 3.03% in the first year, 3.06% in the second year, and 3.4% in the third year. So we went very far in the arbitration process this year, farthest we've gone, frankly, since the time that I think in the time I've been on the board anyway. We went through a mediation. We were not successful at mediation. We went through the regular classic bargaining. We were not successful at classic bargaining. It was set up for an arbitration. We actually named our arbitrator, and then we were able to come to an agreement without any further mediation assistance. So I think we feel that this is a reasonable resolution based on all of the interests that were involved, all of the factors. I know we've talked as our boards together have talked about the whole binding arbitration process and what the arbitrators look at and how the arbitrators are statutorily required to take one of the last offer of one side or the other, which really acts as a brake both on the unions to not present us with unreasonable demands, but also puts a brake on us not to make what anybody would perceive as unreasonable offers, because the arbitrators very much have the capability of punishing unreasonableness. So we were quite alert to that. So anyway, that's where we are. I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has on any of this.
Comment on the state of contract negotiations in our group.
Yeah, we had a lot of data, and I think this is actually one time when I'm not sure the district reference group data is actually the best data, because about a third of those towns are Fairfield County towns, and they just have a different salary scale there. They're not really our competitors. The competitors for us really are much more New Haven County, and a little bit of a difference between Madison, similarities between Madison and us, and maybe North Haven and us, and Cheshire and us, and some other towns. But it's really much more geographical than it is demographic, in my opinion. We are right at the average for New Haven County. Depending on whether it's a 6th-year degree or a master's, we might be a tick below. But the average for contracts entered into either by arbitration or negotiation over the last 2 years, the average has been a total of 9.4%. We are at 9.49%, but we got big changes in health plans. So that's going to, we are right at the average is the bottom line, but we got these health improvements.
Other districts have already negotiated their.
Some have, some have, some haven't. We're right in the middle of it right now. No, I don't think so. I think we're right in the middle right now.
Okay.
They're starting to dribble in. Sometimes they haven't been approved by the unions yet, so they haven't been on the Board of Education agenda. Sometimes the Board of Education hasn't talked about it. I don't know. We had very solid data on New Haven County and Middlesex County, and we had statewide data as well. This was very much in the range of what we would have anticipated at an arbitration, without the expense of an arbitration and without and whenever you go to arbitration, you lose control and you lose the ability to insist on one thing in exchange for something else. That's just the way it works. So we feel very, very positive about this. We think this was based on the rules that we're operating under and based on the interests that the arbitrators are required to take into account. We think this was a reasonable settlement.
Thank you for the report.
Quick question. Assuming, I know there are a lot of assumptions here, but assuming no retirees like you talked about, and the pay increase 3.06 and 3.4 and 3.0, I think it works out to 9.49, I know. And no change, another assumption being no change in health costs. What do you think, what do you think the net impact to the budget is in years 1, 2, and 3 if everything else remains constant? And I know that's a huge if.
Well, one of the things that is going to be very interesting to see with the high deductible health plan is we think that it's going to be very, very close to a wash between salary increase and health insurance decrease in the first year. Yeah, and maybe, if you wanted to be conservative, we could say maybe $200,000. So that would be, the net impact of those changes in year 1 would be a 0.4% increase, roughly, if you want to just back at a napkin kind of thing. Now that $600,000 or $700,000 carry savings in health is going to carry forward. Again, assuming health costs stay more or less static, which may or may not be the case. But that's let's call it $600,000 is going to carry through. So that would be $1.8 million over the 3 years. The salary increases would be about probably 2.4 over the 3 years, something like that. Maybe a little higher than that. But it's
So roughly flattish first year,
pretty close
minus
to flat.
200 the next year, and minus 350 sort of thing in year 3, in terms of
the net. No, I think
impact
no.
of the-
No, because I think the salary numbers build on each other.
Right.
And so
Right,
yeah. So it's when you. I'm sorry. Did you say net?
So I'm saying that after year 1, it's a wash.
Call it close.
Call it
Yeah,
close, year
it's
one.
maybe a quarter.
Year two, it costs us an extra 300,000. So we get 600 in the savings and 900 we lose in salary or payout.
Let me
instead
just
of
see if I
lose.
can give you a little better information here. In year two, yeah, the new money would be 753,000. So that would be, in year one, it's close to a wash. In year two, that would be a 1.5%, say, impact on the budget.
Okay, and that's after the savings from the high to
Well, yeah, because you're counting, the total new increase in salary would be year one plus year two, and the savings from the health insurance would be
Right.
flat. In other words, that's not going to compound,
Right.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So, so the second year, the impact would be roughly, well, it depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to this year, 2 years out, it would be 1.5%, say,
Okay.
all right? And then, which is kind of not fair to do it that way, but in any event, that's fine. So, and then year three, it would be, the total increase in salary would be 2.4. The total savings from health would be, well,
600.
yeah, it'd still be, let's call it 600. So that would be a 2.5% impact on the total budget,
A little over 2 million. Okay.
something like that. Now, but again, that is the top end scenario because that assumes no retirements, and that's just not and that can be a pretty big number, obviously, because if somebody's at top step, say with a master's, that's at 83,000, and they're replaced with a, bottom step bachelor's or master's, that's a $40,000 to $50,000 savings. So it depends, and then obviously any staffing changes. We still don't see the enrollment decline some districts are seeing. I don't know if you saw Madison is talking about maybe closing another elementary school. We're not close to that in Guilford. We're not close. We did go back to our demographer who did the demographic study for us a few years ago, and he is out of the business now. He is he is not because of us, but he is retired. So we're going to. I mean, it's an interesting question. Is it worth spending $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 to try to get a better prediction on where we're going, or what difference does it make? We're not going to build any more buildings. We're not going to hire a bunch of people to meet demand that's not there. I guess it could be useful to predict if we thought we could have any major staffing reductions, but again, you kind of have to wait and see what the enrollment looks like, and we're just not seeing that enrollment decline that some towns are seeing.
Static real estate market now, too.
I'm sorry?
The real estate market is static.
Well,
There isn't much movement.
well, I think the issue is where there is movement, where houses sell, are they being sold to people who are 65 and moving up from Fairfield County to retire, or are they being sold to people who are 35 with a couple of kids? I don't know. I mean, that's what the demographer tried to tell us, and then his numbers have been off by, 8%.
We haven't in the last couple of years seen any dramatic trend in enrollment at all.
No. Well, the trend is it's
We're not-
flat.
Yeah, it's flat.
Yeah.
It has not declined.
Right, that's
That's
correct. Which is
yeah.
very much at odds with what's happening in the rest of the state and also what our demographer told us.
Yeah. So we can save on a demographer for another year
I
or
don't
two
know,
at least.
I don't really see what the value is in
Yeah,
doing a study
I agree
right
with
now.
you.
What's it gonna tell us? If 3,300 kids show up next fall, we have to educate them. It's not gonna, and we're not planning, we're not building. That's the reason you might want to do it, is to see if you needed to add capacity somewhere, or if you could count on being able to reduce capacity somewhere in 5 years. Now, that might be valuable, but we're a long way from that.
Thank you for your input on the salary situation. Any other comments from anyone? We'll entertain a movement to accept we'll accept the expenditures for the month of October in the amount of $4,933,814.36.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Shows unanimity of approval, that's fine. And we'll now go on to the review and approve the expenditures of town government for October. And I would ask the first selectman to please introduce our new finance director. Okay? We don't want her to feel lonely up here.
You better treat her right.
Uh-oh. We've been properly alerted.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our new finance director, Mary Jane Malavesi. And she has taken over as of October 24th. So welcome her to the town of Guilford. Mary Jane, it's all yours, okay?
We've already thanked her for getting the reports to us early.
And that she did.
She absolutely did.
To thank my staff. They pulled through. So I'll go through the information that we've provided. Please bear with me as I try to answer any questions you may have. I may have to come back to you with them, but I'll do the best I can. So do we start with revenue?
We usually do.
Okay.
We do, yes.
All right. We are 33% through the year. Our revenues, including the town and the Board of Ed, are currently at 52.3%, down some from the 56.1% we were at this time last year. I'd just like to pinpoint a couple of items of note. The building department, for instance, is lower at this time. They are expecting some large fees in for a current building project, which they hope would bring them back up in line. Tax revenue is down from last year. I did meet with the tax collector this morning. We do have some year-end adjustments that were not made yet through the audit. So that is a portion of the issue, along with some timing of how she posts her revenue and that we do in finance. So we're hoping that will reflect better percentage next time. The police department as well has a decrease. They've seen a decrease in requests for vehicles for construction projects. So that's why that number is slightly down. The fire department, the number that we have here represents revenue through October 18th. So we have not seen a couple of weeks of their revenue. So we should that should also come back up. So I don't know if you have any other questions concerning the revenues?
Yeah, the fire department is off by about 10% from last year. We have any explanation for that, other than a lag?
I don't have that at this moment.
No, it's just that they only have 2 weeks of October in there, that's why.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, other than that, like I said, it's only as of October 18th, so.
Any other questions on revenue?
Where do we, refresh my memory, Joe, the transfer station, I know they have a separate account there. Where do we see that revenue from the transfer station?
The transfer station is basically, you'll see that as netting out, if you go to the expense line.
That number on the expense line?
Yeah, that is in part of operating transfers. That's where you see that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll
Okay.
come back to that later when we get to expenses, because there's a transfer that took place this month.
Yeah,
in there.
that is a separate fund.
Right,
And we fund that with Madison, and what you'll see on the operating expenses is a contribution to the transfer station. So you don't see the revenue on this expense account here. If you look at the
So-
annual report, it's,
only in this.
You got it.
That's the only place I'm gonna see that.
That's correct.
It's
That's
roughly, I think, $700,000 or
That's
something
correct.
like that. Okay, and which, maybe I'm jumping a little bit out of turn, but we might as well get it over with now. We transferred 35,000 in out of a budget of 70, I think it is, for the year. So with two transfers a year. But the transfer station makes a little money, breaks even, and they have surplus cash of $236,000, I think it was, at the end of last year. So just enlighten me on why we're transferring money in when they have the cash. I'm a little confused.
Because it's, they need money to operate,
Right,
okay? And it's a joint operation between Guilford and Madison.
yeah,
Now, they also collect money on user fees.
right.
Now, if they operate correctly, they're going to have a little bit of a surplus. And that's where you see that they're a
Yeah, bug, yeah.
bug following you or something.
Yes, just landed
Okay,
there.
so you're going to see a little bit of a surplus, and they build that surplus up.
Yeah,
And that surplus is used to finance capital improvements to the transfer station. When they have to repair the scale, for instance, or the compactor. That's where we use that money to fund the repairs or the purchase of capital equipment to the transfer station.
so on a month-to-month basis, you actually know what the cash flow statement of the transfer station looks like.
Correct. I will note that I have a note under expenditures to discuss the operating transfers, which is specifically this subject. I did note, and I did not have time to research, why we have made that transfer earlier than normal. I've noticed in the last couple of years, the first transfer didn't go out until closer to January. So I don't know if it was something that they needed ahead of time, or if it was just something that was done on a regular basis without a finance director here. I don't know what the issue was, but I did note that it was done earlier than usual this year.
Okay.
So I'm guessing they requested it for some reason, but I don't know what that reason is.
Okay. Good, I'll have some more questions, but that's good, that's great for now.
It's not an operation that is part of the annual budget, other than our contribution
Into
To
the
operations.
Right,
to the transfer
Yeah.
station. Okay.
yeah. I'm just not sure I understand yet why I have to see more years' worth of data, why we're making transfers in when it looks like they're doing okay.
Because-
I think they should probably
Because
make money
the
too.
user fees
Yeah,
does not support 100% of the operation,
okay,
okay?
Certainly something to redo during the budget season.
yeah, okay.
Any other questions about revenue? Proceed with expenditures.
Okay, again, we are 33% through the year, and total town and Board of Ed is at 34.8 in comparison to 33.8 last year at this time. As was mentioned during the Board of Ed report, a lot of the differences that you see between last year and this year are timing issues. I did review some of the expenditures where sometimes they're done the very end of October and sometimes they're done the 1st of November. So a lot of them are timing issues like information systems was one, and so is the Youth and Family Services is also timing because, Human Services, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong line. Human Services, we expend those lines as they're requested from the agencies. This particular year, some of them went out earlier than usual. I know my staff had said last year, towards the end of the year, they were trying to catch up to get some of them out, so I guess the agencies got smart for us that as soon as they send a letter, we would get them out. So that's why that one seems higher at this point. Debt service interest, I'd just like to notice on there, we have, it's really a budgetary difference there. Through your budget, you included a reduction to expense for refunding of some bonds. So we've started paying out that interest, but we haven't seen the savings from that refunding yet. So the budget is skewed, those percentages are skewed because of the way that was budgeted this year. And operating transfers, I've already discussed that. With the difference there is the earlier transfer to the transfer station that makes up the difference between the 27 and the 63%. I would also just like to make sure to draw your attention to the encumbrances of $877,000. That's money that has not gone out the door yet as of October 31st, yet they are shown in the obligation percentage.
Yeah, I noticed that under general fund, we did not budget for consultants to do any work for us, but this year, we spent $23,940. What type of consultants did we hire that all of a sudden apparently must have been an emergency or something because it wasn't in a budget previously?
I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to answer that at this time.
And you're talking about the finance department?
It says general fund, well, yeah, I'm sorry, it is, okay, yes, I'm looking.
That's Linda.
That was for Linda Savitsky. That was the interim, I can't call her finance director, but that was an interim consultant
Okay.
between Sheila Volano's departure and Mary Jane taking over. Yes, it was not budgeted, but we will make that up because of salary. The difference between what we budgeted in salary and what we're actually going to be paying new finance director, so we'll be okay by the end of the year on that.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question about engineering and public works, and I'd like to spare you that and fire away. I noticed that we still have some summer, I hate to mention it after a day like today, but we have some summer ahead of us in this year, and yet I noticed that in summer road projects, we're overspent by $30,000. I just wondered, well, whether that means that we won't be doing any road work for summer projects through the balance of this fiscal year. There's certainly enough money in there for winter road maintenance.
Yeah. As you remember, we had to cut our budget this year, and there were some projects that we had to get done. And I'm just looking for the amount. You're talking about
29,368.
29,000. Yeah, we have an encumbrance there, Ken, of 68,351, which is figured in there,
Yeah,
which brings the deficit to 29,000. So some of that encumbrances will be reversed.
I
So
see.
we'll be okay in that area.
And just a general question in engineering and public works regarding equipment maintenance. I know we've purchased a lot of new equipment in that area over the last few years. And I noticed that we went over, again, with encumbrances
Yeah.
by 18,000. Are we running into
No,
unexpected
no, you
costs?
gotta remember though, those encumbrances are basically blanket purchase orders.
Okay,
And just to take you back towards the end of the fiscal year, we cancel many encumbrances. And more than likely, a lot of these encumbrances will be reversed, and
Oh, I see.
we'll be okay.
sorry to bypass you on that.
That's fine. Welcome to switch places with Joe.
Are there any other questions? Any questions regarding the warrants? Or the special funds or general funds?
I have a question on the Kerma distribution. Is there anything that we've used a really large percentage of that? Is that because we haven't received the funds, the reimbursement back, or?
Where you,
I'm looking in insurance.
you looking at the warrants or the?
No, I'm back in the expenditures, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
When we get to that point. What was your question, Jeff? I'm sorry.
It looks as though we've expended more than the budget, and I was just wondering if that was had something to do with any sort of reimbursement or equity distribution?
We'll
we're
be okay
expecting?
on the current.
You just haven't received it yet?
Right.
Sorry about that.
Any other questions? Not hearing any further questions, I'll entertain a motion to,
Are there warrants, or have we done?
I did ask about
Oh,
warrants.
okay, then we went back to.
Please
I know
go
there's
ahead,
two
I'm sorry.
$10,000 payments for Blum Shapiro somewhere in here.
Yeah,
It's, those two separate?
I know we had another progress payment for the audit, and we
Okay.
also paid for the IT audit that was done. It had not been paid. That could be the two that, does
Okay, that sounds
that sound?
like what I saw.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the IT audit was completed, but I can tell you one of the first calls I got here was from Bloom Shapiro wanting to know where their payment was. So I know that one got paid. So that's what it is. But I did see a progress payment come through as well for the audit.
Okay. Yeah, here it is, here's one of them, here was audit, okay.
Under schematic, there's $10,000 in invoices for duct cleaning and dust cleaning, HVAC. What is that?
That's what this building here.
okay.
So how do they clean it?
You know,
What is,
sounds authoritative.
Pardon me?
it says duct cleaning, so how do they clean the duct? They just put like a vacuum in there, suck it out, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Something like that.
The ducts weren't clean since I think this building was built.
Okay. Any further questions of the town? Not hearing any, I will entertain a motion to, hang on, I haven't gotten through the first line of the script here. To review and approve expenditures in the amount of $1,932,393.
So moved.
Now you may move.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much and welcome. We have one, before we go to public forum, which I don't think will take us too long tonight, we have a calendar to review. Oh, I'm sorry, medical benefits.
And we don't want to skip it, because it was a nice month.
It was a good month. Okay. Matter of fact, I had some other things there too. Thank you for bringing that up. Medical benefits. Any comments on the report that we received?
Hopefully it indicates how things will be going in the future.
Although I suspect October, at least last year, October was also a relatively lower month. It just may be sort of the timing of the way things sort of work out. But it's good news and there's no reason not to take it.
Okay. Thank you for that. I didn't even notice it in here.
3 new structures, so that's fantastic.
Three new yeah, that's certainly
Pace is blistering.
moving at a blistering pace. The golf course, any comments on that? Because I do have one on the golf course, which I don't know who's going to be able to answer it, maybe Joe
Is there
can.
any change in management of the golf course now that we've rolled it in? Is that going under Park and Rec, or what is?
No, not at this time.
No. So it's still run by the commission and
Yep.
everything's basically the same?
Yep.
Just not, doesn't have its own fund anymore?
Well, they did actually have an oddly golf course related item. I guess they had a disc golf event.
Yes, they did, November
It was
5th.
wildly successful.
It was quite successful. It
Creative
was
thinking.
marketed by the Park and Rec department. They had almost 80 participants. They grossed at $10 a piece, grossed about $800.
So the fact is you get people out
That
there
was
using the
growth, yeah, it was
facility.
growth, yeah.
So figure they're going to net, the golf course will net about $350 on a day, which they hardly would have any golf that day.
Right.
So,
Right, nice event at the end of the year.
yeah, so the thinking is they're going to run this a few times a year when the golf course is not going to be in use.
Right.
And they drew about 80 people to the event.
Which is good.
The food truck was there. It was a place to put the food truck for a day. And, and they had a band, and it was quite successful. People enjoyed it. So Park and Rec is trying to help out the course and marketing activities there. And they're working kind of hand in hand with the Golf Course Commission. I met with the chairman of Park and Rec this afternoon, as a matter of fact, trying to coordinate more activities out there. We have a new Golf Course Commission chairman who is enthused about having more activities at the golf course and events. And I told him I pledge my time to working with him in putting together an operating budget that will be part of the town operating budget. And we'll see where it goes from there.
This is going to start happening in this new budget.
Yeah, it'd be part of the
Sure.
2018 budget. And we talked about doing a search for a pro like we had prior to 2009, which made the course a little bit more successful. And we'll have to work with the inherent problems that the course has always had. But if you played the course lately, it's in great shape. It's a shame more people don't use it, though.
Right.
Well, what explanation is there? I noticed in the review from July through October that membership is up quite substantially.
Yeah.
It's up threefold. But greens fees are down by 10%, which is not attracting new people.
It's because the people who were paying green fees became members.
Okay, and we couldn't replace,
That's almost exactly the dollar difference.
is it?
It's $6,000. So that's good.
Year to date is much better than last year.
And
Revenues, down a little bit, but are up a little bit, and expenses are down a lot, so.
I mean, it's the business you're in. I keep saying that. You get a benefit from the good weather, but also you pay for the dry season because you're spending a lot more money on water.
But there's no concession stands there, we don't...
No, and Peter, that's one of the problems with this course. And I keep saying there's at least 3 inherent problems with the course. You don't have motorized carts. And to have a motorized cart, you'd have to make a large investment on putting cart paths in. And that would mean a tremendous investment in moving dirt around and making paths. That's one problem. The second problem is that you'd have to have a concession stand. And they're thinking about that. The third problem is because it's a town facility and it's so close to the Guilford Lake School, you can't serve alcohol or sell alcohol there. Yeah, so those are 3 inherent problems you have to deal with. And the fourth problem is having a pro who can stock the pro shop and give lessons. Now that we're working on, and that can be solved. We had that we had a pro up until 2008, and that really helped the course and helped the junior program a lot, as Luke probably knows. But when we had the downturn in the economy, one of the decisions was to let the pro go, because it was costing us about $30,000 a year. But he also saved us some money because we didn't have to hire attendants to attend to the pro shop. He was the attendant there. And so it was an offset that we had. So we have to do some restructuring there. But the commission has a lot of new members there who are eager to get to work and roll up their sleeves and address some of these problems. But the first 3 problems I mentioned are going to be hard to solve. We're not going to spend any money in redesigning the course to have motorized carts. That's not going to happen because we're going to put ourselves deeper in the hole. As far as the alcohol, we can't solve that problem. But they are thinking about the concession stand. So.
Yeah, because I think the difference between operating the black and red is the ability to sell beer. Because every successful restaurant makes the money not off the food,
You're right.
but it's the liquor.
You're right. But, it's a town property, and we have an ordinance against
do it.
alcohol on any town property. And even if the Board of Selectmen were to amend that ordinance,
Yes, I'm
bless you, Mike, we still have the proximity to the Guilford Lake School.
Yes.
And that's never going to change unless you close the school.
Close the school.
And we heard that's not going to happen.
Turn the school into a beer garden. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great facility. It's certainly raised the property values of the homes within the area. It's in really good shape. I mean, if anybody's been up there lately.
It beautifies the area. It beautifies the area.
Yeah. I mean, even, I was up there Saturday, instead of taking care of my leaves, I went up there. And
Good priority.
right? I mean, what was it, November 19th?
Yeah, right.
It was in beautiful shape.
Is it still open now, today?
Yeah, the closing December 1st, by the way.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And reopening,
Can't tell you that.
don't know that.
I don't know.
Okay,
Depending on the weather.
all right. The next item on our agenda is to consider and take possible action on the meeting calendar for 2017. I've reviewed it. Have you all reviewed it?
Yes.
We have a very busy period here as a board in February and March.
Right, so the
Our
question really is,
involvement
is
in the
there any
budget.
problem with any of those dates?
No, at least, I checked the calendar, there didn't seem to be any conflict with religious holidays. And you'll notice there are 2 Tuesdays in there. Well, there's one Tuesday that's Martin Luther King Day, and the Thursday, which is geared to the acceptance of the budgets, or receipt of the budgets, I believe, February 16th, isn't that correct?
I'll move we accept the proposed calendar.
Okay.
I'll
Do we-
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Tracy, you can accept that. Committee reports, we usually rely on Mike for that. And I think he may have given us the last of the high school reports. Old business? New business? Public forum? Not seeing anyone who would like to address public forum. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nicely done,
We're
Ken.
adjourned.
We have to buy Ken a beer or two.
Yeah, well done, Ken. Way to